What's up, everyone? This is Rob Weathers, professional wrestling commentator, and I am drinking at Moose.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're filling out your order, use the code Drinkin at Mo's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go. All right, everybody, welcome Drinkin Mo's. Big Mo here. You know the drill by now. You too, like, subscribe, share, comment, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a moment, because YouTube's algorithm is a pain in the ass. We are most places to find audio podcasts too. Today, I'm excited to have with me commentator Rob Weathers. How you doing?
And I'm doing really good, Mo. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm actually at work right now. Every other Monday night, you can find me in Chattanooga at TWE Arena. I'm helping them out with their music and everything for the Crash Course show tonight. So, been a hell of a weekend. And once part of being at work, is there anything you need, Scott? Get to the computer real quick. Do what you got to do. I am doing the podcast thing. Just getting there. I hope you leave this shit in.
Oh, I'll leave it in. Yeah.
I told him what I was doing. There you go.
But yeah, I've been excited to have you on because I've had a friend of yours, Carmen Michael, on, and that was fun. And I just got some pretty good news on a show that a friend of mine and I were planning on going to for Sami Callihan's promotion, Wrestling Revolver. They literally just announced today that at the show we're planning on going to in Des Moines, Danhausen is making his return.
Nice.
And
Carmen's spoken very highly of Danhausen. I never got to work with
him. This will be my first time getting to meet him, and I'm excited because I have the ringside collectible exclusive figure right here that I'm like, oh shit, I am taking that with me.
That's nice. So, New Stop legend Danhausen. I didn't get the chance to work with him. That was a little bit before my time.
Yeah, I've been a fan
of him. I'd have a beer with you, but unfortunately that worked.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. This is actually Dr. Pepper, so.
Oh.
But yeah, no, Danhausen since Ring of Honor, and then, I really got to watching him during Ethan Page's toy vlogs. Like, you can see one of my hobbies behind me here. So really got into that. So, one of the other guys that got me into figure hunting, Matt Cardona, I actually pull this down. I actually got his signed Super 7. So
I've got his Super 7 at home. So I'm a bit of a toy collector myself. I've got, if I was at home, my usual office setup right behind me, I have a little tower that's got a couple of championship belts on it, and then I have a ring full of people that I've worked with. And I've got both Cardona and Brian Myers Super 7s in that ring. Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson Super 7s in there.
Nice.
I need to fill it up because I've got Teddy Long in there, I've got Road Dogg in there, I've got Heath Slater in there, but there's just so many big names that I've worked with.
I can only imagine. Now, before we get too far into things, the first thing I'd like to start off with everybody with is what got you started as a fan, and then what got you deciding to make the leap into the business, on the commentary side of things.
So it's a very, very interesting story. So with the fan, so I was born in 91. So when I was a young kid was whenever the Attitude Era was really in a fever pitch, right? And I remembered my dad had this friend that was trying to convince him to watch wrestling. My dad hadn't watched since like Hogan was on top in the late 80s and stuff. And my dad had this friend that was trying to convince him to watch wrestling. He's like, dude, you got to watch the WWF. It's awesome. He's like, no, man, I'm not watching that. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins, crap. He's like, no, you don't understand. They got this group now called DX. They go around telling everybody to suck their dicks. It's awesome. So he brings over the Coliseum VHS tape of like DX, like Sean butt naked on the cover and everything. And I walk in the room as they're showing the scene with X-Pac and the New Age Outlaws taking a piss on DOA's motorcycles. And I'm like 8 years old, maybe. So I'm watching that and I'm like, I don't know what the hell this is, but whatever it is, I want in. This is awesome. And then, fun little fact on that, fast forward, I've now had the chance to work with both Road Dogg and Billy Gunn.
Nice.
So that's if I get X-Pac, I got the trifecta.
Oh,
Road Dogg, I get to go down in history, at least hopefully, as long as he doesn't get fired again. I will get to go down in history as his only ever independent wrestling broadcast partner. Called an entire show with Road Dogg. I literally that was 2 years ago, and I'm just like, dude, call it a career now. I don't care. I nailed it. That's all that I need. I don't care about what happens next. We were just having a conversation in the locker room a little while ago about shows coming up and like what names they want to work on. I was like, dude, I don't chase names anymore. I don't give a shit. I got Road Dogg. I don't care about nothing. That was number one for me. I used to go around school doing his whole intro speech in the schoolyard, man. As far as getting into the business, obviously, when you're a kid and you see wrestling, you want to do it. That's just how we all want to. Yeah. We all practice the moves on our siblings and our friends. I almost broke my brother's neck with a Batista bomb whenever I was like 13 or 14. But I got older. When I got in my late 20s, I used to work in the video game industry, and I had this. I wasn't very happy whenever I was first working in it because I worked for EA and they were just the drizzling shits to work for. But I was like, man, by the time I'm 30, if I'm not happy with where I am still, I want to find a way to get this. Now, I grew up in Louisiana. The closest place to me was Wildcat and Metairie, and they weren't like really, I think they weren't around too awful long by that point. So I didn't even know anything about them. I consider moving to Houston to go train at Booker T school. But then in 2018, I got a job in Atlanta. I moved there working for another video game studio. And during that time when COVID happened, I discovered, and this story is about to take during COVID, I rediscovered the Talkin Shop podcast. And with everything just being the drizzling shits in the world that it was, having that, 30 minutes a week where I could just laugh my ass off over just the ridiculous shit that would come out of their mouth was all that I needed. I first met Gallows whenever they did the first Talkin Shopamania. He was doing a live watch party for it at a brewery in Athens, Georgia. So I drove out there and I met Gallows there, and they used to do this thing called Boozing with the Boys with all the Patreon members, and I'm there on my phone doing Boozing with the Boys at the watch along, and Gallows sees me and he like turns his laptop over to me. I've got on Zubaz and a Sex Ferguson foam finger. He loved me, and then invited me to. He was at the time working with a wrestling promotion called Ariado that he was running, and he invited me to come out to those, and we would chit chat a little bit. And I eventually, fast forward through some boring details, eventually got a gig working on the Talkin Shop Patreon page on an after show that a couple of other podcast guys hosted. And I got an opportunity to do that. So that got me closer with Gallows and all them. And I remember being at Gallows' house one day doing, we were filming some Sex Ferguson videos. We filmed some commercials for their YouTube channel promoting the Patreon page. And I told him, I said, hey, I go to these Larry Otto shows all the time. It would be awesome if there was an opportunity for me to just come help out. Literally whatever you need. Help set up the ring, set up chairs. I don't care. I'd love to help. And they said, okay, I'll take you up on that. Be at the building at 3 p.m. this afternoon. And that's how it started. I started helping out, and I was getting like vlog footage for their Patreon page because, anything about Gallows and Anderson, they don't like to do stuff. So somebody had to get content for that Patreon page everybody was spending money on. So that was me. And 3 shows in March of 2021, we were in Rome, Georgia. And the fabulous Playboy Bob Keller, who was the play-by-play commentator at the time, came to me backstage because he was apparently supposed to be commentator with Scott D'Amore then. And D'Amore just said, no, I don't want to do that. And so he came up to me and said, Rob, it's a damn shame you don't have a suit that could use your own color. And then I was just like, you don't need a suit. Color Jerry won't let me wear a suit. He said, that's a good point. You're doing color. 15 minutes later, I'm calling my first show. Very first match I ever called, Johnny Swinger versus John Skyler. First main event I ever called, the fucking Aces and Eights review. Right out of the gate. And all I knew was like, I'm there, so I know the storylines. And he knew I could talk because we had interviewed him on our podcast. And that led to it. And then after that, that door creaked open. And, magically, I'd said earlier, by the time I was 30, I wanted to find a way into the business. This was 3 days before I turned 30. And that door opened. I wedged my goddamn foot in that door, make sure it was And then I did a couple of more spots with Lariato, talked to Gallows, asked him what he thought about me staying on full time with him. He was pumped on it. And then it just evolved after that. And then 3.5 years later, and I've been lucky enough to work all over the Southeast. I live in Atlanta. I'm in Tennessee right now. I was just in Alabama a couple of nights ago with New South for Bunkhouse, where I got to have my first wrestling match. Got to scratch that one off the little check box. And man, I've been able to work in Texas on WrestleMania weekend. I was in Jersey a couple of months ago with a versus show with Bloodstorm Pro, and it just keeps getting bigger. We were literally just talking in the back, and I said, I looked at my calendar the other day, and I've already got 50 dates for the rest of the year. And that's not considering the ones that I will get bookings for over the next few months. That's December only having one show, November only having 2 shows, and I've already got like 50 dates. So it is from doing like 10 or 11 shows my first year when I was with Lariato to now getting the opportunity to work for like a dozen promotions at a time. Just as blessed as it gets.
Nice. That is awesome. And funny thing, 2 parts when you mentioned Road Dogg. I have actually had the guy that used to co-host his podcast, Ryan Katz. I've had him on. He's now still with NXT, I believe. And I did the whole intro thing that Road Dogg would do. But the way you felt about that would probably be the same way I would feel if I ever got Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh God. I mean, that's God.
Like
I'm a little realistic. Like Road Dogg was a possibility, and I knew that. Stone Cold's not a possibility.
Oh yeah, no. That would be one where it's like, oh God, how could I top that without having him on again? But there's plenty of people that, good Lord, would probably be right up there, a little more realistic. That some of them I have behind me. Like I've actually somehow managed to have Swerve follow me on Twitter.
Nice.
That would
be a champion.
Oh yeah, I actually got to meet him at Revolver show a while back. And, it's funny looking back at some of the stuff that he's done and some of the feuds that he's had since, like the whole thing with Hangman. Goddamn, he played one sadistic son of a bitch. But
fantastic.
But you talk to him, off camera, one of the nicest dudes ever.
I've heard that. I've definitely heard that. I've been a big fan of his for a long time. Him and Darby, I was following when they were in Defy, which is like, being me and you brought up Carmen earlier, me and him talk about, our checklist all the time. And there's a few indie promotions that are on it for me, and Defy is one of them. Yeah, Darby and Swerve over there is some of my favorite shit in wrestling.
Oh yeah, definitely. Some of the stuff they've been able to pull off, and goddamn, Darby sometimes scares the crap out of me with some of the stuff he goes for. But yeah, it's insane. But I was gonna say here, because I am actually making my commentary debut in August for a friend of mine is doing a suicide prevention benefit show, and he's been a big fan of the podcast, and was like, how would you like to do commentary? I'm like, just tell me when. So
that's awesome. I love that.
So I got that going, and there's actually, they've got talent from all over the Midwest, but he's also managed to get former Ring of Honor and New Japan guy Cheeseburger.
Oh, nice. That's a good one. For your first show, having cheeseburgers are nice.
Yeah, I get to call a cheeseburger match for my first show.
Man, that was the big thing for me. It was like, so many people. Like my first show, I didn't have to start in the shindies like most people did. Like I started with I was on my very very first show ever was on Impact Plus or TNA Plus now if it's still there. But like my very very first show, like I said, Aces and Eights in the main event. With Johnny Swinger and John Schuyler earlier in the match. I had Air Paris teaming with Landon Hale on that show. I was talking with Landon Hale about that recently because he just had that he had that big match with Mustafa Ali in action. I was watching it from home, crying like a baby because me and him go back. He started in the business not too awful long before I did, and was one of the first wrestlers I got to call for. And then seeing him get that X Division title match against Mustafa, I was like, oh man, that's amazing.
Oh man,
you love seeing your friends succeed. That's my favorite thing in this business. Is as I was lucky enough to break in with a lot of really really talented people. Every time I see my friends succeed, it's like I'm succeeding. That's my favorite shit.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So, did have a question with me making my commentary debut. You got any tips that might be able to help me along?
The few things I've been lucky enough in my 3.5 years, I've got to work with a lot of people that made their debuts. I got to do it right next to me. And the same advice that I give everybody is stick to what you know. Look, if somebody does a move that you don't know the name of, don't worry about it. Don't have to say it. It's fine. I fucked up and called so many neck breakers cutters whenever I was first breaking in because I didn't know the difference. I was working in Retinal the other day with my broadcast partner Scotty Moore over there, and they called a neck breaker a cutter. Oh, been there. Stick with what you know. If the best advice I ever got is from Rocky Romero. He told me Kevin Kelly gave this to him. If you don't feel compelled to speak, you don't have to. Don't feel like, oh, there's been dead air for 5 seconds. I really should say something. It's not the WWE. You don't have to say anything. If you don't feel compelled to speak, you don't have to. And if you are looking for something to say, look for sound bites. In the WWE, and this is something that Nigel McGuinness told me, that everything that comes out of their mouth, they're expecting it to be on some video. So look for sound bites. Just oh, hell has frozen over here tonight. Anything like that. Just like cliches. Ain't nothing wrong with a cliche. My big thing is I beat myself up about repeating myself all the time. That was something I got to talk to Tom Hannafin about. I feel like I'll call matches back to back, and I'm like, God, I feel like I said the same shit in both matches. And he's like, they didn't notice. That's a big thing you have to remember. A lot of the shit that you might beat yourself up about, the people at home don't notice. You notice it because you're doing it. But yeah, stick to what you know. Don't feel compelled to speak if you don't have to. If you need something, look for sound bites, and that'll get you through the whole thing.
Oh yeah, and as far as memorizing a lot of the moves, I've always considered myself more the color commentator guy.
That's how I started. And I'm looking up. I can go back and forth. But how I started my whole first year, I just did.
Oh yeah, that would definitely be me. The goofball like Pat McAfee sort of thing would probably be the route I would end up going because that's just my natural personality.
So one thing with that, and I do want to say this for any commentators or aspiring commentators listening, I enjoy Pat McAfee's commentaries, but, and this isn't his fault, he's not from this world, he's from football. There's too many times where I feel like he's putting himself over at the detriment of the team. And it's not that I think he's purposely going out there to do that. But unfortunately, if I check Twitter and every WWE Raw hashtag for the last 30 minutes has been putting over Pat McAfee, he's not doing his job. Yeah. Our job is to put the talent over, not ourselves. And that's, you get caught up in it because he is so lovable. It's so easy for him to do. Like him dancing on the desk during Shinsuke's entrance and shit like that. Like, you're getting you over when you do that. Be careful not to get yourself over the top. You have to put them over, put the match over, put the promotion over, not you. If they don't talk about us, in all honesty, we're doing our job.
No, you know what? I can definitely agree with you there because if I had one qualm with Pat is, there's those times where it's like, okay, a little too over the top. And then it's like you said, almost getting him more over than the people in the ring, which should be the ones getting over. Now.
Yeah, and it's a dance that we have to do. It's something that a lot of people just don't consider.
No, that's very true. Now, when putting my notes together, there was one thing that came up that I don't know if I've heard this story. You might have told it before, but the broken standard, how did that come about?
It was my band. I was in a rock band before I moved to Atlanta, and we went by the Broken Standard. We got some music on Spotify if anybody wants to check it out. But whenever I was breaking in, I just wanted something to differentiate myself. I didn't feel like I'm not like every other commentator. I don't dress like you look at me and Carmen next to each other. Like I don't wear the full suit like he does. I wear the vest with the rolled up sleeves. I've got my own way about doing everything. I've got my own style. I've got, my own vocabulary. I do everything that I can to, I look at myself as familiar enough, but also very different at the same time. And to me, the name, The Broken Standard, just kind of drove that home. And I was like, that's perfect. I already have the perfect nickname.
No, hey, it works. And yeah, I don't know. I am that type that I'm not the type wearing a suit. Like me, I'm like if I have to, I will. But like I'm the type that literally jeans and t-shirt, just being comfortable over there. That's my whole style of it. I don't get
it depends on if if I'm not on TV. Like if we're not doing it on camera, like so here at TWE, we never do on screens. I'm over there in the commentary perch wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, like I'm doing right now. That's what I'm doing. New South, if it's an action clash, I'm usually wearing my polo. I wore my polo on Saturday night because I needed something quick to take off for my muscle shirt underneath. But most of the time, like with New South, like if it's a bigger show, I wear the suit. But even then, yeah, I like to mess around. Carmen's a little more uniform.
We seem very similar in that aspect because, yeah, probably the most fancy I would get, unless the long shot I ever got to do anything like a WrestleMania sort of thing. Most fanciest I get would be a polo. That'd be about it.
Well, I did WrestleMania weekend one year, and I unfortunately wasn't myself. Unfortunately, it was what it is. I wasn't myself. I was a puppet on Zicky Dice's show, so I wore a black suit, but with a black mask and everything over it. So you just saw a shadow holding up a puppet, basically. But yeah, that was as nice as I ever dressed was for that because I had black suit, black jacket, black tie, black everything for that. You couldn't even see me.
Yeah, I think the fanciest I've ever dressed is ever since my wedding would be other people's weddings. That'd be about it.
Dude, I wore a tuxedo t-shirt in my wedding. That's a shoot. we got married at a park. She wore a nice, pretty dress, and I wore a tuxedo t-shirt and some cargo shorts. That is real.
My now wife probably would have killed me if I showed up in one of those.
That was so like we weren't going to have like a big wedding, but we were just going to get married at the Justice of the Peace. My ex sister-in-law was going to talk me into doing something. I told my wife, I was like, look, we'll do something. We will have a wedding, but this is my condition. I was like, after that, I was like, I don't give a shit what we do after that. I'm wearing a tuxedo t-shirt. And she's like, all right, fine. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do.
Man, that sounds something similar to what my brother did for his wedding, where he asked the groomsmen by giving us a pair of tuxedo underwear and was like, you want to suit up? And then, I kid you not, there was a part of the reception after, most of the kids had left. They got all of us groomsmen up there and oh God, I've actually seen video of this and I cringe, but we all dropped they played that song Jump Around, and when they got to that part, boom, and we're just jumping around in the tuxedo underwear.
Jesus, man. I'm glad my buddy didn't make me do that when I was his best man.
Yeah, no, yeah. If it weren't for everybody else up there, I'd been like, oh God. But going back to wrestling, there has been, like you said, multiple promotions that you've worked for. One of them that you actually brought up Bloodstorm Pro, I've actually had the promoter on not too long ago. And what's it been like for you there? Because everything that I've been able to see so far, I've been loving it.
We did the one show with them, and it was we did New South versus Bloodstorm.
Yeah.
We piled up 10 deep in a van and drove all the way up there. We met here at TWE and drove all the way up there, and that was a trip, man. And it was super cool being in the H2O arena. You know, the place that has definitely got some history there. It was really cool. I love seeing the Hall of Fame up there. Just everything they do there. It was very. It was one of those things that, like, I really wasn't in it in the moment. Like, I couldn't grasp how cool it was in the moment. I couldn't grasp how awesome it was to have Earl Gardner taking promo pictures. You know, I didn't realize I had the best damn photographer in the wrestling business taking promo pictures of me in sweatpants and a New South shirt like a jackass, you know. But no, that was very cool. Very thankful to get to do that. Got to scratch New Jersey off the checklist. And yeah, I would love to go back up there, man. If the opportunity was ever there, and I know I don't think they run super often, but if there was ever the opportunity to go back up there, I absolutely would. I know some of that crew, because the H2O crew will be coming down here to Tennessee later this year. We announced that recently in this building, and I'll be here a part of that. So yeah, if there was ever an opportunity to go back up there, I'd love it.
Oh yeah. And I was excited when they announced that one because, good Lord, I've lost count of how many of the H2O people I've had on. Like, I think it started with Chris Bradley, and then it just snowballed from there. And now, good Lord, I think there's only maybe a handful, if that I haven't had on. I think Tremont's one of the only ones left. They've been super good.
That might be a tough one.
Yeah, it might be a tough one.
Yeah, we had when we had ICW here in this building a couple of weeks ago, Tremont stayed behind and stayed here for an extra couple of days to be at the last Passport show that we had here and hung out just to give people notes. That's I love that dude. I can't say enough nice things about you.
Oh yeah, I've had little interaction with him here and there, and yeah, I've got nothing but good things to say. I got a few people telling me they're gonna put a little word in his ear about coming on. So who knows? Crossing my fingers. It's on my bucket list for the show for sure. Then I saw one that I don't know if I've been too familiar with, but looked like Zicky Dice had a promotion. Is that still running?
Yes. So Zicky Dice's Outlandish Paradise. It started back in 2022. That was I was that puppet gig I was just telling you about. I did that on the first couple of shows, and it's now changed. So we did the first two in 2022, one in January at the Action Building with Southern Honor runs in Canton, and the second one was Texas during WrestleCon. And now we are running with a convention in Atlanta called MomoCon. And we started with them last year, 3 days of wrestling. We do 2 1-hour tapings each day. I did commentary in post on a few of the matches last year with Carmen. And now this year, very excited to announce that me and Carmen are going to be there all 3 days doing live commentary for those. That'll be Memorial Day weekend this year. But yeah, that's running every year now with Zicky stuff. And I get to be myself. No offense to doing the puppet. It was a big opportunity. And at the time was one of my very first commentary paydays. But, you know, it's fun to get to call wrestling and not have to be in a crazy character the entire time.
Oh, I can imagine. I know, like I said, with my commentary debut, I'm getting pretty pumped as it gets closer. I mean, we still got a few months left, but with every announcement of people that he's got coming in that he makes, I get more excited because I'm like, this is going to be fun.
Well, and like with me, whenever I got to do that first show with him, you know, I only got to do the pre-show and then one match, which, I mean, whenever I'm a character and I've got to do a raspy voice the entire time and just tell jokes the entire time, it's tough to stretch that for an entire show. But the first time I got to work with Johnny LaQuasto, who's a former WWE commentator. The second one, it was me, Johnny LaQuasto, and Matthew Raywalt in a 3-man booth. You know, even if I'm not me technically, that's still such, like, as a commentator, that's such like a big bucket list thing. Like,
oh yeah,
the bucket list.
Oh, totally. Now, going into TWE. Now, I've been a fan. I think the first show I saw at the TWE arena was actually an ICW pit fighter show. And I just remember thinking, holy crap, this is insane. And then I started watching some of the regular TWE shows, and we talked a little bit about H2O. The two arenas seem kind of similar, that smaller, intimate thing that you can really get that crowd interaction that I personally love about independent shows, because, you know, I was trying to think. The thing I love about it with independent shows is you can get as close as you can. Like, you can get front row for over half of what you would pay for like WWE, like well over half. And you get the same crowd interaction you would get at any show, versus you might get that same fan interaction at a house show for WWE, which they're known to be a little more, flexible there with that. So
the TWE arena is like, that's my favorite thing about it, actually, is that it's so intimate. And, we've got the most comfortable chairs in wrestling. Bob Banks knows all about it. It's all he likes to talk about. And I think like sold out, we can maybe do 175 in here, maybe. And I don't know where you're putting 25 of them, but that's one of the things right there. And that's one of the things I love about this place, because I will take a small intimate venue over a big open gym any day of the week, just because you can pack. I don't care if it's 100 people, pack them in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you definitely get that same noise, and you don't have that much space, but yeah, you get the same noise, you get the crowd packed in there, and it gets loud, and everybody's excited. Like, I've seen at plenty TW shows, like I've seen at H2O shows, and yeah, it's just tripping over my words here, but it's just an awesome thing to see. And I guess I still remember I keep on going back to the pit fighter shows, because it was such a unique thing, because uniqueness in professional wrestling can be kind of few and far between, because just about everything has been done before. But the pit fighter, I was like, okay, it's basically like just a little mat and the cage surrounding, and you get some of the crazy shit they pull off in some of those is just nuts.
Yeah. My introduction to ICW was when they were here last month for that weekend, and I got to run the music on the Pit Fighter show. And I walked in the building, and I remember walking through the front door, and I didn't know what to expect, because I'd never seen any ICW stuff. And I walked in, and we literally just took the mat from the ring, laid it on the ground, and then put a 10-sided cage over it. And I'm like, what? Why is there a bumper in the cage right now? You literally just took a car bumper and put it in there. I was like, why did I see 8 buggies full of light tubes in the back? And what the hell am I looking at right now? And then the next night we were in the chains. And the next night I was in here watching them put chains on the ring. I'm like, damn, dude, ICW, I'll be the first one to tell you, as a fan, I'm not the biggest deathmatch guy in the world. As a commentator, I go where the numbers are, go where the money is. Pay me, or if there's going to be people watching me, I'm going. But one thing I will definitely put ICW over for is their, just like you said, uniqueness. And getting to see that in person here in this building, in this booth that I'm in right now, getting to watch all of it up close was really, really cool. Shout out to Danny and all of them over there. I know they just had their last show for a while this week.
Yeah. It looks like they're going on a little bit of a hiatus, but it sounds like, from what I've been able to gather from, having I just recorded last week with Shiny Shoes, it doesn't sound like it's going to be forever. So that's going to be cool, because
it's not. Like that, Danny was talking about that here in this building. He was like, man, we're just give us a break. Just give it a little bit. We'll be back. That's what Danny was saying here in this building when they were in chains. So I very much think by the end of the year, for sure.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think this is going to be too much of an extended break at all. Like hell, like I've done with the podcast before. I've had enough stuff scheduled out where I'm like, you know what, this part of this month, I'm just nothing new. I'm just releasing the stuff that's already scheduled out and taking a break. And now, got to go back to New South because I have been wanting to talk about a couple things. First off, the big Haas tournament, because I've had a couple people that were in that tournament on. What was it like, calling that night? Because I remember when putting my notes together, there was a picture of the commentary team with you, Carmen, and guy that does a lot of stuff with New Japan, Walker Stewart, that I've been trying to have on. What was it like there for that? Because it turned out to be a pretty damn good show.
So Walker wasn't. Well, he didn't make it. I found out morning of that he wasn't going to make it for that show. No, we had him there before he signed with New Japan. We called a 3-man show with him at Americana last year. But yeah, okay. he wasn't able to make it for Haas, so it was just, and I only did night one. It was just me and Carmen night one, and then my retinal broadcast partner Scotty Moore stepped in for me on night two. I had a booking. I think I had Lariato, and Lariato only runs 4 times a year now, so I don't miss those. So I had to miss night 2 of Haas. But yeah, I mean, that was New South was a place that when I broke in, I had a list. Where do I want to work? It was Defy, Prestige, Progress, New South. Those were the wanted to go, and of all of them have gotten New South. And Carmen was very instrumental in bringing me over there. That was something we worked on for a long time. And then the Haas tournament is something that, man, when you're talking independent wrestling and you're talking about especially tournaments and independent wrestling, to me, it's like the Super Strong Style 16 for Progress, and then it's Haas. Like, and getting to be a part of it officially, and then that huge title win for Tune at the end of the night. Caitlin Marie versus Carrie Awful being one of my favorite matches I've ever called. Jamison Shook, unfortunately, getting injured in his match, which led to me getting out there to check on him, and then Marcus Dillon getting in my face, and then we had our little interaction, which led to me finally getting in the ring recently. Yeah, man, like being a part of Haas was such a cool experience, and I can't wait for this.
I got to actually reschedule with Braden Toon, so should be getting him on sometime soon. But let's go into that little in-ring thing you got to do. It was this last weekend, right? With the bunkhouse stampede. Like when I saw that picture, I'm like, ooh, that, like, my schedule with the podcast and family stuff get kept kind of busy, so sometimes I don't get to catch everything that I want to live. But I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to go catch that one. What was it like for you that night, leading up to everything?
Dude, that was so back to Bloodstorm versus New South in Jersey. I did not know that the show was going to end with Mother Endless coming out and saying that there was going to be the Dusty Boot and the cash prize to whoever wins Bunkhouse this year. I did not know that. And we talked about it on the drive home, and Colin said, Rob, if there's a cash prize, wouldn't it make sense for people that aren't wrestlers to get in on it? And I was like, Carmen, that might be the smartest thing you ever said. And then ever since that night, February 24th, we've had it planned that me and Carmen would enter the bunkhouse. And the 3 non-wrestlers that did it were myself, him, and Ref Pat. And that was something that I trained for. Like, even though it was a minute-long segment. I was physically in the ring for all of about 40 seconds. I trained my ass off for it. I was eating good. I lost about 20 pounds getting ready for the match. And then got to have an interaction with Marcus Dillon in there, which ever since Haas, we've been kind of building to something with me and him. And got to get some hands on him, which was awesome. Went over the top rope, which is scary as hell. But thankful to Jaden Newman and everybody here at TWE because they let me practice in their ring. And And then, got to do I'm a big King of the Hill fan, so I hit negatively with pocket sand in the ring. I was pretty pumped on that. That was the one contribution that I made to everything. But yeah, that was, like I said earlier, when you're a kid and you watch wrestling, you want to do it. That's all that you dream about. You got to do it. And I'm not going to confirm anything right here. And no offense to your podcast or any others. I'm not ready to get scooch yet. But it ain't the last time I'm getting them. I know that after speaking with Duff Sanders after the show, it will not be the last.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I don't want you to give away anything. I know I've had a couple, actually, one of the wrestlers that actually is going to be in the show that I'm making my commentary debut at was like, oh, I thought you were on the card. And my wife literally goes, what, so we can risk another hernia? Because I've had 2 of those surgeries, and she jokingly tells me, nope, you're not. I'm like, eh. But then I had to tell him
that. The bump that I took was over the top rope. That was the only bump that I took the entire time. I'm still feeling that apron right now. I'm still, as I'm talking to you, can feel it in my back right now. That was the only bump I took.
Oh yeah, I remember doing a pro wrestling boot camp. That's what I was looking for. And yeah, we did some of the training. We did, some bumps in the ring, and I was walking funny for about a week.
It's not easy, man. And that's I've got a little bit of training before this. The guy that broke me on commentary, Bob Keller, means everything to me. I wouldn't be in this business if it wasn't for Bob Keller and Don Gallows, but I got to get in Bob's ring and do a little bit of stuff. Just running the ropes hurts like hell. People don't realize that. People do not, especially here at TWE, because here at TWE and a lot of times at New South, we'll use cables. And those cables, I don't give a damn. What Carmen will tell you, Carmen will disagree with me on this all day. He thinks the ropes hurt more. Bullshit. The cables hurt way more.
Okay, I would venture to guess the cables, at least in my opinion.
I take ropes all
day. Now, last but not least, before we get into a couple categories I got here, you brought up retinal wrestling. Now, I believe Carmen also has some stuff he's doing there, and then you're on commentary. And what's a retinal show like for people that'll watch and listen to this that might not be as familiar with stuff down there?
So Carmen is our general manager at Retinal. He was the one that brought me in to do commentary there, and they moved some stuff around. He moved off of play-by-play as a general manager, and that moved me from color as play-by-play. Retinal is DIY punk rock. That's how we describe it. It's a different show. It's very loose, especially on this most recent show, because we did a free show, and I said, I'm going to do some things that I never do. I said fuck on commentary multiple times. I will never do that, but it's fun, and it's like I said, it is DIY punk rock. That is the way to explain it. And we run primarily down in Birmingham, Alabama. And this last show that we did was such an awesome experience. And one thing that I've really been putting Retinal and TWE over about is their inclusivity. I recently, and it's thanks to everybody here at TWE, I recently finally came out as pansexual after 12 years in denial. And it's because of all of these great talents. And Retinal, we had a cool opportunity where myself and so many of the other people here at TWE were all there. We took a group photo together, and I've been just putting them and TWE over all day because we need more of that in wrestling right now. There's so many wrestlers that don't get a chance to work that many places because there's still so many backwoods-ass territories out here that, if it ain't straight, it ain't right, or whatever the hell,
Yeah.
And Retinal is the furthest from that. TWE is the furthest from that. New South even as well, and that's my thing that I love about Retinal. Everybody's welcome. The only rule we have is you better have a good goddamn. That's the only rule we've got.
No, and that's another thing that I've been loving about, especially wrestling nowadays, is there's still those places that, still have that in the past thinking. But in general, it is a lot more inclusive in a lot of places than it used to be. Like, you're seeing people like Pollo Del Mar, doing big things, good Lord, Nyla Rose, and unfortunate. But oh yeah, so and it just got me thinking recently that it's like, man, if there were people like Canyon, that are like, man, if he would still be around today to be able to see how much further we are along than when he was going through everything, man, I'd have to say he'd be loving it right now.
His dark side of the ring was a big factor in me finally trying to come to terms with himself, because I remember watching that episode and bawling my eyes out because they talked so much about how he hated himself because he thought there was something wrong with him. That episode fucked me up because I felt the same way on these. I carried a secret for over 10 years, really, really, really hard on me. And yeah, dude, I came out here at TWE on one of these Monday night shows just a couple of months ago. And I completely agree with you. I really wish Canyon and so many others were around to see this, because I think that we've still got a lot of work to do. The wrestling is in a way better place now.
Oh yeah, no, nobody's perfect. There are, like we've mentioned a few times, there's those places out there that still aren't as progressive and inclusive as others. But yeah,
I've worked for a few of them.
Oh yeah, no, I can imagine, and I can only hope that one day we get to the point where, people coming out, which, hey, I am supportive of anybody being able to, come out and be themselves. And, when it becomes not so much of a newsworthy thing, not to be, not to come across wrong there, but when it's not so much of a news flash and it's just a regular like, oh, okay, cool, that sort of a deal, that would be, my ideal way for it to be, because, I've had this conversation multiple times that, I might not necessarily agree with a lot of people. I might, not be as politically correct as a lot of people, but I have definitely evolved from where I had been. And, having served with people of the LGBT community and, them being some really great people that I still hold in high regard. And that was before the whole don't ask, don't tell thing got repealed. And, now people are getting to not have to worry about that. The more places we can get that, wrestling is supposed to be fun, be an escape, be for everybody. When people can, go to a show and not have to worry about what people think because they are pansexual, they are trans, whatever it might be, that is probably as perfect as we might get.
Yeah, and I think we're taking the right steps. I mean, just in the locker rooms right behind me right now, we've got Finesse back there, HBO star Finesse. Watch, we're here on HBO Max if you have it. Eden Monroe, Seeger daughter is here. Some of my favorite people in this business in that back right now. And if it wasn't for them, and if it wasn't for this place, I wouldn't be comfortable being myself. And like I've been saying, we're getting there. It's taking baby steps, but we're getting
there. No, we're definitely getting there now, because that actually was coming up, because I was going to bring up the picture that I saw of that group picture, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm loving seeing, the inclusivity that a lot of places are getting to. Now, I have a little bit of a name game where I name off some people. You give me some quick thoughts on them. And, being the rich pro wrestling history that the Southeast has, each of these people has made their name worldwide, but particularly in the Southeast. First one that I actually just heard didn't get his WWE contract renewed, Jerry the King Lawler.
Old Jerry, man. I was, Jerry was a guy that I'm going to be completely honest with you here. And oh, buddy, I'm almost going to feel bad about saying it, especially since he didn't get his contract renewed. Everything he did in Memphis was very, very important to professional wrestling. And I think that as a wrestler, especially in his heyday, there was hardly anybody more over than Jerry King Lawler. As a commentator, and I've been going back and watching a lot of the old Attitude Era and a lot of the old Ruthless Aggression. Look, he said some stuff that was maybe of the time then. I don't hold that against him. It is what it is. I don't think he ever really added anything. I think that if it wasn't for Jim Ross, we would not speak about Jerry Lawler the way that we do as commentators. And that's coming from a commentator. And it almost breaks my heart to say it. Like, I'm going back and watching, and I'm like, man, King ain't really saying shit at all. It's all Jerry. Like, King is adding nothing to this. He could be silent, and it would be just as over from the commentary perspective.
Yeah, no,
he was the man. He was the man in the ring.
Oh, yeah, no. And you know what? I guess I hadn't really thought of it like that, but you do bring up a good point. Definitely. Now, the next one, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Obviously growing up in the 90s, I didn't get to see a lot of Dusty on my television. That's a guy that I think wrestling is the way it is. That's the ultimate showman. And look at, even if you're not, I think everybody in this business, even if you're not directly influenced by Dusty, you don't realize how much Dusty has still to this day is influential stranglehold on this business.
Oh God, yeah. And even nowadays, all the people out there, his son Cody doing the big things that he's doing. I still want to meet Cody real bad, because I went and first time I watched the documentary that they released on Cody, and they get to the part about Dusty's last day or so. I'm talking about being in the hospital. I make it no secret. My wife and I were pregnant with twin girls, and they weren't due until like November, but they ended up showing up in late July. And they're the reason I got this tattoo on my forearm. They only made it about a week. But like, I can tell you the same stuff that he was talking about with the hospital, like practically memorizing where you would walk, and like not even having to look at the elevator to go to wherever. I lived that for that whole week. Like, to this day, when my wife and I try and, again, we go to that same hospital, I pull into the parking lot. My eyes go right up to the window I would stay at in the NICU. I would just stand right there when I was taking a breather. And I'm just like I said, to get to a point, I want to meet Cody so I can tell him about that, and being like how much that whole segment of the documentary spoke to me in that way.
I got a chance to meet Cody in 2019, right after AAW got started. I got a chance to meet him. He had just put out his kids book, and him and his wife were doing a signing. And I got a chance to meet him, and such a sweet guy, and I think that, he still carries that. He knows how important the fans are, so he treats the fans as important as they should be. And I've got nothing but nice things to say about it. I told him, because I saw AEW's second ever show, that Fighter Fest show they did in Daytona, and I told him that when I met him. I was like, "Yeah, man, I was at y'all's Fighter Fest show." And he just went, "I'm sorry." He said, "I really didn't want to be at a video game convention, but it is what it is."
That's funny. But yeah, I've heard nothing but great about him. He seems that he's the perfect, face to kind of go from, Roman being the way he was to, now you got the perfect face to be the face of the company. It's definitely that.
He really is. He really is perfect.
Next up, the Enforcer, Arn Anderson.
Oh, I love me some Arn, man. I got to work with Arn twice. With Lariato, he came out with his son Brock. Both times you're wrestling against John Skyler. Man, I am such a massive Arn fan. I think the Spine Buster is my favorite move in professional wrestling, and I get excited anytime I see somebody do a good. And yeah, dude, that is, in my opinion, and I know that he gets his flowers, but he's still, even getting the love that he gets these days, he's still the most underrated everything, the most underrated worker. I love his looks. I love that he just looked like a dude that could kick your ass. He wasn't some pretty boy. He just looked like a badass. His promos were untouchable. I legitimately one of my all time favorites. I love the Enforcers.
Oh yeah, and you bring up the Spine Buster. I swear, other people do good ones, but his ones were just so smooth and just the delivery of them. I loved it.
Like he floated. Like he would float whenever he would hit you. It was so beautiful. I wanted him to hit Skylar with one so bad, but he never did. But yeah, I got to see his son. I got to call his son do it a couple of times. Just getting to yell "spine on the pine" whenever Brock hits the Spine Buster is
nice. I've always thought it would be funny if somebody debuting and like they made that their finisher, but like the first time they rigged the ring to where like Taz and Bam Bam where they went through the ring, like they do that with the Spine Buster, and then boom, you got a nickname for the move right there. Instead of the Spine Buster, you call it the Pine Buster, and boom.
You know what? If I run my own show, I'm taking that idea from you. You'll get your 10%. Don't worry.
All right, we'll go with it. All right. Last but not least here, two of my favorites. Probably the reason I'm such a big tag team wrestling fan that I am, the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom, whichever one you want to call them by.
I was just having a Road Warrior conversation the other day. I am unapologetic of my dislike of the Road Warriors. I didn't like them when I was a kid because they were LOD 2000, and I said, no, these guys, give me Mosh and Thrash, give me Too Cool, give me Edge and Christian, give me the Hardy Boys, fuck LOD. And then especially now you go back and watch the matches, and it's kind of tough whenever we all know what wrestling is. We know that we're supposed to take care of each other, and it's kind of tough when we go back and watch somebody's match and go, wow, they're just beating the shit out of those guys. It's literally all they did. I was never a Road Warriors fan, but it's one of those things that they came up in a very integral time in this business where I think we needed it. I think we needed as many things as I can say about the Road Warriors, as many things everybody will say about the Ultimate Warrior, and a lot of the people from that time period. I think we needed those because I think if it wasn't for those guys, the business wouldn't have evolved. We wouldn't have fucking kill each other in a work fight.
No, I get you there, and yeah, in my fandom of them, yeah, the LOD 2000 days were probably not my most proud moments of being a fan of them. I will give you that. Yeah, definitely.
If I was a child of the 80s, it might be a different story. I was born in 91, so if I was older, it could be a different story.
Yeah. Now, I have some random questions. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be. Some might have absolutely nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far. That's why they're random. So, like, I give you the question, first answer that pops into your head. First one, craziest in-match moment that you've been there to witness.
Oh, my God. Now my brain is picking the time to shut off because I know I've called some amazing shit. Off the top of my head, just like based on crowd reaction, Anniversary 8 last year for New South, Braden Toon giving his signed still delivered briefcase to Hunter Drake, and Hunter Drake cashing in on doing anything New South champion. Something that nobody saw coming. WWE or whoever it was, somebody had I think it might have been WWE did something similar with one of their briefcase spots recently. I can't remember, but I was like, we did this shit first. But yeah, like that was just getting to be a part of that. I mean, and just being out at commentary with Road Dogg and hearing Scott Steiner and Tommy Dreamer in the ring, and Scott Steiner's on the mic and says, if you ain't down with that, we got 2 words for you. me and Road Dogg just having a field day on commentary. Like, shit like that. Like that's a totally different spectrum. Like that's more just I'm marking out because I can't believe I'm doing this right now. And then just I've got to call some really cool moments that nobody saw coming. And hell, being in the ring myself, the reaction that myself, Carmen, and the rep Pat all got, we've been talking about it all day. That reaction, just being a part of that, I never in a million years. I was like, man, I hope they think this is cool. That's all that I was thinking the whole time I was walking in that ring. And boy, did they.
That is awesome. Yeah, no, I can only imagine if I ever got that opportunity that I don't know if I'd ever be able to shut up about it.
God, it's still cool.
All right. Next up, we kind of mentioned a little bit, some of my hobbies back here. Hobbies of yours, if any, because I know wrestling can take up a lot of time.
It does. It takes up most of my time. I don't collect toys like I used to, but I definitely have a pretty steep collection. I was in a band for a long time, so I still play music. I don't write as much as I used to, but I love to get back into that. I'm trying to like really video of me, or just kind of hold myself accountable and force myself to do it. But yeah, I've been playing music for like 20 years, and that's always been outside of wrestling.
Nice, yeah. Like I've started, my collection actually started with my Hangman Adam Page one. I got signed at a World of Wheels show, and then it kind of just snowballed. I started rebuilding my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collection, and then I literally got all my signed ones in order of how I got them signed. And I probably rearranged stuff back here. God, I've lost count of how many times, because I'm like, oh, I like this over here, and there's like this over there. Yeah, I'm constantly thinking of stuff, and like the only things that I keep out of the box are like the ones that have, for people that have passed away. Like I got my figures over here, and I even got some Funko Pops. For like, I was proud of when I found the Big Boss Man one, because that guy was one of my first favorites. Like I don't know what it was about him, but my first piece of WWE merch I ever bought was a foam nightstick at the first ever WWE show I went to. My dad was like, "You can pick one thing," and I went, "That."
That's awesome. So my favorite wrestler was Scott Hall, and I got to meet him a couple of years before he passed, and I got his Funko Pop signed. And I've gotten rid of a lot of my signed Funko Pops, but that one I'm keeping.
Oh no, I would be keeping that one for sure. I know I don't have too many signed Funko Pops, but I am particularly fond of 3 out of my 4, because like I said, pro wrestling and Ninja Turtles growing up was my deal. And I actually got to meet the voice of Michelangelo from the original cartoon. I got one signed by him. And the guy that was behind Splinter from the first 2 movies, boom, got one by him.
That's awesome.
And actually, looks like we got some rain going. But shortly before everything happened with Jason David Frank, I actually met him at a comic book shop here in town and got a Green Ranger one signed by him.
I met him 10 years ago at a comic. I think I've got an autograph of this somewhere. But yeah, that was a massive Power Rangers fan. The Green Ranger was just like it's like God.
No, yeah. No, most definitely. And I remember when the friend of mine that I went to it with, he's like, we were watching, I think it was an AEW pay-per-view, and he was like, "Hey, you hear Jason David Frank's coming to town? You want to go?" I'm like, yeah. I got to find something for him to get signed, but yeah, I'll go. And yeah, because that original run of the Power Rangers was pretty much the only one I really paid attention to. But good Lord, even then, you see somebody that like growing up, like Jason David Frank, or like for me with the Ninja Turtle guys, you see they're coming to town. It's like, oh God, what do I have to do to be there? All right. Now, you have called some great stuff. What would you say is a dream match that you would like to call? Like if you could get it done, what would that match be?
I would, honest to God, anything involving Samoa Joe. I know that as the days go, it's getting harder and harder to make that a possibility. Joe is everything in pro wrestling. He's perfect at every aspect of this game. And he is to me, and that's why I know you talked about getting Braden on your show. Braden to me, and this is the highest praise I've ever given an individual, is the closest thing that independent wrestling has to Samoa Joe right now. And I hope that we're speaking about him in the same regards. Anything, I don't care about who's across the ring from. I don't give a damn if it's a squash match. I don't give a damn if it's a 60-minute Iron Man. Give me Samoa Joe. That's all I want.
That would be epic. I know I'm a huge fan of him. I know, good Lord, if I ever got to call a match with him or I got two of their figures behind me here, either Swerve or Eddie Kingston. Huge on
Eddie
those.
Kingston is a very, very close number 2 would be Eddie Kingston.
Oh yeah. Because I don't know. There's some I gravitate towards those intense personas. Samoa Joe and Eddie Kingston, two of the top, just you see their promos, you can't help but be hooked by the intensity. Swerve, definitely along with that, for sure. All right, now I would feel weird if I didn't have this question in here with the name of a show like I have. Favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic or non, or hell, one of each, because I know there's plenty of people out there that don't drink for one reason or another.
I am not my broadcast partner, Carmen Michael. I sure as hell drink, and I'm a whiskey sour guy all day.
Okay, yeah, you know what? I've had a few. I'm more mixed drinks. I tend to be more of a margarita guy myself. I don't know why. I guess between the liquors, it's whiskey and tequila for me. I don't know why. My family gives me shit about liking tequila, but I can't help it. But I've also always been more of a beer guy myself. Like, I have my favorites, but one of them doesn't even get sold anywhere near me besides maybe closest Kansas City, but Stone Cold's Broken Skull American Lager. That damn beer is
I haven't had it yet. I saw I remember being at Jimmy's Seafood for Talkin Shop Live in Baltimore. Somebody was drinking. I was, God damn it, I want to check this out. But they ran out.
Oh, man. Yeah. I remember when I got my taste of it, it was actually my dad had invited me to go to my first ever Green Bay Packer game up in Green Bay. And there was a grocery store nearby that just happened to sell it. And I happened to get it only comes in 4-packs, and I got the last one that they had. Otherwise, I probably would have bought more.
Yeah, I want to try it for sure.
But, yeah, outside of, alcoholic, I'm a bit of a Dr. Pepper fiend. My wife likes to give me shit about it. I'm like, hey, as long as I got some, I don't got a problem.
If it's soda, I drink most sodas. I know that the TWE crew here, we got a bunch of root beer drinkers. I know that we usually like to go out and eat after these shows, and whenever we do, they actually bring out the pitchers of root beer, and I ain't mad at
it. Yeah, I don't mind root beer, but yeah, if I have my choice, I'm always getting some form of Dr. Pepper or another. All right, now last but not least here, best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into wrestling?
Mouth closed, ears open. The biggest thing that people don't realize, and I've had to go through it. I'm watching people breaking in that are going through it, trying my best to try to guide them through it. You will get heat over every goddamn thing. It takes nothing to piss that off. I've had so many vets want my head over some shit that I didn't even think was It wasn't even over anything I said to or about any of them. The problem I had with something. But this business is not like anything else in this world. Just keep your damn mouth shut and keep your ears up. That comes up to you and gives you advice. It doesn't matter if you're a dealer and sit there and listen to it. That's the most important thing. We build this business off the back of respect. You have to be respectful. Know your damn roles. Just like the Ross. It's the most important thing you need to know.
Oh yeah. No. That goes the same with a lot of places, you know. If you have, like any sport, if you have people that have been in there longer that are willing to take their time and give you advice, just sit there and listen. They're talking to you for a reason.
Yep.
But that is about all I have. Before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on you, they can go ahead and get them there.
I am at Sweet Sexy Rob on Instagram and Twitter. I did not give myself that nickname. Doc Gallows gave me that nickname. Him, I would never. I don't try to follow me on Facebook because it ain't gonna happen. If I don't know you or don't want to work with you, I'm not gonna add you. I have so many fans that send me friend requests, and I feel bad every time I delete them. Yeah, at Sweet Sexy Rob on social media, at Sweet Sexy Rob 29 on Instagram, or not Instagram, TikTok. I'll put some match clips and stuff like that on TikTok. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. ProWrestlingTees.com/Rob Weathers. Pick up a t-shirt.
Definitely, we'll get all that in the description. Like I said, that is about all I have. My dog decided to join me, and he's giving me a dirty look like he's ready for his dinner, so I better go get that taken care of.
We've got Crash Course starting in about 10 minutes. I've got to get
well, hey, we're ending right on time. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me tonight. Best of luck tonight with the show, and I look forward to any time you're wanting to come back. You're more than welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. It was a great time.